Hi, I'm Linus. In this video, I'm going to go over the general overview and setup for your deck data hub to collect dissolved oxygen measurements. You should receive a package from me with a deck data hub and 5 dissolved oxygen sensors. A little overview about the units. The power button can be found on the top, and then there are a series of buttons on the side, and then it should be included with a power cord. When you're hooking this up on your boat, you can use the provided power cord for 110 AC like you'd charge on a cell phone, or if you'd rather use 12 volt, you can cut this cord right here, and then this wires 12 volt going into the box. This setup video is for DDH units that are equipped with cellular capabilities. So this will be a total self-contained unit, and we'll be able to send data without user intermission here. So when you're setting this up on your boat, keep in mind the range for communicating with the dissolved oxygen sensors is only about 20 feet or so. So try and keep this relatively close to where you'll be pulling pots on your boat. And the time that it takes to transfer the data successfully varies. So varies with distance. So keep that in mind when you're pulling pots with sensors. Please either check to make sure they downloaded correctly, and you'll notice plots will pop up, and I'll cover more on that later in the video. But just be aware that the data transfer is not instantaneous. When you're using this system for the first time, you won't actually need to have this deck data hub turned on. The sensors that you should get in the mail from me are already turned on and have been recording data that I'll filter out later in post-processing. But when you're deploying them for the first time, make sure to mount them securely to the top crossbar inside the crab pot with the zip ties that I've provided. And I've also included a little bit of string, twine, that can be used to tie off the copper guard to the crab pot as sort of an added safety measure. When you're using this in the field, the models that are equipped with internet capabilities, they should have ample battery, but if you'll notice on the screen, it might say that it's not connected to the internet. You'll have to undo this top plate here, and with Phillips head screws, and then you might have to turn on the wireless hotspot. That's the bit of hardware that is command stripped to the side, and if you press and hold on the top of the unit with the white command strip Velcro, that will turn it on. But otherwise it'll be charging. It's just sometimes if the battery runs all the way down, it will die and not turn itself back on. So that's something to be aware of. That doesn't necessarily affect the functionality of it, but it will not send data back to us. So I'm going to show what the inside of the deck data hub looks like. If you need to turn the wireless hotspot back on, if the battery had run down, this is what you're going to do. So I've undone the Phillips screws on the faceplate, and be careful because there are a number of wires that will still be holding these two pieces together. But if you look inside here, this is the wireless hotspot, and it's just command stripped to the side. So take it like in your hand like this, and the button is right here in the middle. So if you hold this down, it should turn on like so. And once you see some text on the screen, it's good to go. If you mount it back by pressing it against the sidewall and then closing the box, making sure no wires are trapped in the seam, and then you're good to go. When you're going to be fishing pots that have dissolved oxygen sensors in them, be sure to turn the deck data hub on at least 10 minutes prior to pulling those pots. That'll give the unit plenty of time to power on, go through its software checks, and then acquire a GPS signal. And you can check to make sure it's done all those things by looking at the face of it, and it'll give you some information on that.
So I have 3 sensors that I have set to record on my desk, and I am going to now fire up the software that you will have when you're out. When you'll see the screen that you'll see when you're out fishing. So let me go ahead and start that, and it'll connect. As soon as it starts, it should connect and start transferring the data. And don't worry about what I'm doing right now. This will already be automatic, so you won't have to do this. This is kind of a back-end way of doing it. But I'll go ahead and start the software. Okay, here we can see it's scanning. I'm in my basement, so it's not going to get a GPS signal. But here it's already found one of 2, so it's found 2 loggers. It's connected to sensor number 13. It'll go through configuring once it finds it, and then after configuring, it should say downloading. Here we go, downloading file 1 of 2. So now it's sending the data from the logger to the CrabPot, or sorry, from the CrabPot to the Deck Data Hub. And it'll say plotting here, and then once the sensors are done, I'll show you how to get the plots off if it doesn't already automatically send it, but it looks like it did. And just when you're out here testing, keep in mind this is very much a pilot phase study here, so there's going to be some bugs, but I trust that you guys will let me know, and if it's something that's really wrong, we can work together to fix it. But so if looking at this plot now, so this is for logger number 13, and this is, you can see here, April 3rd. It's the date I'm recording it, so it just found, this is the data that's been recording. This is the time right here on the bottom line, and you can see the red line, which is temperature, and that's another logger that it just picked up, and I'll show you how to cycle through them. But what it'll do is it'll send you, it'll make a plot for your temperature and your dissolved oxygen. So this is DO here on the left, and then temperature on the right, and then the lines are you can see are labeled accordingly. If you want to click in this with your finger, the history ribbon, you can see where the loggers were last seen, when and where the loggers were last seen. So if you know the logger name that's in the CrabPot, and this NA will be filled with a GPS coordinate if you're not in a basement, like I said. But let's say you pulled up a couple pots and you wanted to go look at the first DO profile of the pot that you pulled. So you'd click on the plots ribbon with your finger, and then I have the deck box in my hand right now, the Deck Data Hub in my hand, and I'm pushing the red button, and that will let you cycle through the plots if I'm just keep pushing it. So it might take a few times. It's a little finicky with the way it stores it and plots it, but you can just keep, if you know which sensor and logger you pulled and when you pulled it, you should be able to thumb through this by pressing the red button on the side until you get to the plot that you want. So looks like I've got 2 plots in here. I only have 2 plots in here. Okay, yeah, I only have 2 plots, but if you had several, like, I don't know, I've seen upwards of 10 plots in here. You can just thumb through them, and you can see the date will change, and it'll stay, like, I don't know, March 30th or something. But let's going back to the information tab. When you're using this in the field, please make sure you turn this unit on, say 20 minutes before you pull a plot with a sensor in it. That way we can get a good GPS location, which is super important. If the GPS is not, for whatever reason, connecting and you're getting ready to pull a pot, if you wouldn't mind making a note of when you're pulling the plot and where you're pulling it from, just write down the GPS coordinate as kind of like a failsafe. I'm not sure how, if it'll have a problem out at sea, probably not, but that's something maybe to keep an eye on. These sensors have a 24-hour window where they need to be recording data. So when you're setting these pots with the loggers in them, please make sure you're going to set them for at least 24 hours before you pull them. It has to do with the way the data is transferred. So at least right now, please just let it soak for 24 hours before you pull it.
So that's it for using the deck data hub and dissolved oxygen sensors to collect measurements. If there's anything that was unclear in this video, or you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And with anything, anytime, you have my phone number, just give me a call. Thanks.